What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Caleb Perez Show. I hope you guys are having an amazing Monday. It is Monday, March 23rd, 2026. This episode begins now. Uh, what a week we got ahead of us. March Madness is approaching its end. The Sweet 16 is beginning soon. Not tonight, unfortunately. And the NHL continues to heat up as we approach the playoffs, with the Islanders evening the Blue Jackets on points, getting one step closer to getting back into the playoff picture. But we're not here to talk about those things today. I'm going to make my MLB regular season predictions video tomorrow, so be on the lookout for that. But today's episode, I have one purpose in today's episode, and it's to talk about the Five Nights at Freddy's 3 movie. Now, I'm just going to yap. It's legit just going to be what this video is about. It's just me yapping about what I want to see in the Five Nights at Freddy's 3 movie. I've made a video like this a couple months ago, not long after the second movie came out. I've watched both FNAF 1 and 2 since then a few times. I've had more times to fully process and digest what I saw and what I think about those two movies. So this video, I'm just going to sit in front of the camera for a little bit, talk about what I feel like the movies could be right now, just based on what we've heard. Although it hasn't been much, we've gotten a little bit. It's at least something to talk about for now, but yeah, that's basically what the video is going to be. I'm going to sit in front of the camera, I'm going to yap, and yeah. So, Five Nights at Freddy's 2 obviously ends with three kind of cliffhangers going into the next movie. It starts with Vanessa getting possessed by Charlotte, the puppet slash marionette. Then we get the post-credit scene of those three dudes salvaging whatever they can out of the restaurant before it gets demolished, and them finding Springtrap, the hidden room that Springtrap was in, fully indicating that this next movie, I think we all knew it was going to be about Springtrap. I feel like that basically confirmed that it is. Or at least if it's not all about Springtrap, it's going to be a majority Springtrap. And then the post-credit speech we heard from Henry Emily, trying to give Mike a warning about, I think Charlotte. At least that's what I heard in the end credit scene. But that's what I'm going to talk about first, the end credit speech from Henry. Issuing Mike, he said, "She's coming after you." That was the last thing, or one of the last things, that Henry said in his little post-credit speech towards Michael, trying to warn Michael about Charlotte. I believe he said, "She's coming after you." So that basically means, to me, that I feel like there's also going to be a good chunk of the movie in which Michael is being chased by the puppet slash Vanessa. Now, there's a lot that's going to be in this third movie. I feel like this third movie could be really long. And the reason I do think that is because there is a lot that they got to get to, right? They've got Vanessa being possessed by the puppet. They got Springtrap. They're gonna have more scenes of William and Henry together. I imagine plenty of flashbacks of those two working on the restaurants together. In general, knowing how big those three things have to be, those are a few of the things that I firmly believe could make the movie a bit longer. Now, we saw a clip of Circus Baby in the second movie. It was only a few seconds. Whether she has a big involvement in the third movie or not, I don't know. But I'm expecting her to be Circus Baby involved in it more. Whether it's having Elizabeth already possessed her, figuring out more about Vanessa's backstory with the Afton family. That's something that we could see as well. Yeah, I feel like there's a lot that's going to be in this movie. So that's what's going to make it really, really long, in my opinion. It could be. It's going to be over 2 hours. That's for sure. Maybe approaching 2.5, maybe 3. I mean, as much as people kind of hate long movies, at the end of the day, I feel like they might have to go the long movie route because of how much story they need to unwind here. If this will end up being the last movie with Five Nights at Freddy's in the title. So I feel like for those reasons alone, the movie's going to be long. Again, I feel like the movie is going to be in just two main acts. The first half and the second half. I think the first half of the movie is what they're going to devote towards Vanessa being possessed by the puppet. We'll learn more about Vanessa's backstory. You know, maybe see why she was so terrified of Circus Baby in the opening credit in the part we saw Circus Baby in the second movie, as well as maybe Mike and Abby trying to get Vanessa unpossessed or trying to get Charlotte out of Vanessa. Now, whether that's them going after her, her going after them, we don't know just yet, but we will see. But yeah, I feel like that's going to be the first half of the movie is going to be mainly focused around the puppet and Vanessa. And then the second half of the movie, that's where we're going to get Springtrap. Now, one thing they absolutely need to do with Springtrap is they need to show how truly strong and powerful Springtrap is. I mean, he was strong enough before when it was just William in human form inside of the Yellow Rabbit suit, inside the Springtrap suit, killing people. This is a different version of him now. Now, this is William as the supernatural being haunting this animatronic suit. If you thought the main animatronics were strong, William's going to be a lot stronger. Well, this one just came out. But yeah, William is going to be a lot stronger. He is going to be unbelievably strong. And they need to show that in this movie. Like, really do William justice and the Springtrap justice as to how strong he is. Because after all, I feel like the last movie, the aftermath of the first movie up until now, has just been just building up how this third movie is going to have so much Springtrap. They need to do his character justice. This make him ridiculously strong. Like, he can punch and kick down doors. He just absolutely shred through people. Like, they need to, again, it feels like I'm just saying the same thing over and over again, but they need to do his character justice. You know, and we kind of saw that when they added Springtrap into the video game Dead by Daylight. I loved using Springtrap because I feel like, as a Five Nights at Freddy's fan who wanted the world to see how strong Springtrap truly was, they did a good job doing his character justice with how strong his character is in the game. That's what we need to see in the movie, in the third movie. So, yeah, there's that. I thought this episode would be longer. May not be, but yeah, again, the movie is going to be really split into two main acts in the first and second half of the movie. First act's going to be all Vanessa and the puppet, figuring out that situation. And the second half is going to be William, Springtrap, and maybe seeing Springtrap coming to his demise. Oh yeah, and then going back to Matthew Lillard and Skeet Ulrich, or William Afton and Henry Emily. I think many people know Matt Lillard and Skeet recently did a panel together where they answered fan questions, and one of the answers to the questions, the question was about, will they have more scenes together in the third movie? And they said, yeah, there's going to be a lot more backstory of Henry and William and their backstory, their character development. Because what was unfortunate about the last movie is that while we did get to see both of them on the screen, they were never on the screen at the same time, and we never got to see Henry for more than one scene. So we need to get more scenes of Henry and William. I think the way they might handle it, or might be best handling it, is if they sprinkle flashbacks throughout the movie. Like, we see Henry spend the whole movie really trying to build up or plotting how he's gonna get rid of William once and for all, with flashbacks sprinkled throughout the movie as well. I feel like that might be a good way to play it out. But yeah, I feel like we need to see that. We absolutely need to see more scenes of Skeet Ulrich and Matthew Lillard, William and Henry Emily together, because I feel like they've had no screen time together. Legitimately, they've had no screen time together in the first two movies. Like, nothing showing us their backstory. We got to see more of that. I feel like that's what the opening scene is going to be in this next movie. The opening scene's got to be a long-ish scene of Henry and William working together, maybe the end of their relationship, maybe Henry breaking off of William after he figured out that William murdered those kids. So yeah, I feel like that's what we gotta see really strongly. Um, but yeah, there's a lot of moving on this really next segment. Questions they gotta answer. I feel like there's just a ton of questions that they gotta answer in this movie. I feel like they gotta at least make an attempt to answer Circus Baby and maybe giving us a better explanation. Again, giving us a better explanation to why we saw her in the second. She had one few seconds of screen time, but during that time, we saw Vanessa just absolutely terrified of Circus Baby. And we saw that Circus Baby's eyes were already green. Going back to the lore, Circus Baby's eyes in the games weren't green until after Elizabeth had possessed her. Maybe explain that a little bit. Yeah, we that's a big one. They feel like they do need to answer the questions about Circus Baby. Whether they do so in this movie, maybe they tease it for doing so in future movies. Because I know Scott recently said that a cool movie would be a sister location movie. Maybe they tease that a little bit in this movie if they do plan on making more than three. And again, when I say they plan on making three, during the development of the first movie, Scott Cawthon, the game developer, said that he only originally planned on making three movies. With that being said, first two movies have done great at the box office. While they have had mixed reviews, I think the overall consensus amongst the Five Nights at Freddy's fans is that they were really good. I feel like that absolutely opens up the path to a third movie. Now, to future movies. Whether that involves the characters we've seen in these first two, or whether or not these set of characters we've seen so far just gonna be held into a trilogy, into this main trilogy, and then down the road we get more backstory that doesn't involve them. I feel like that could be a route they can go on too, but yeah, they do need to at least lay out a plan for Circus Baby and answering questions about her. Maybe we'll see why Vanessa's so scared of Circus Baby in this movie, or maybe we'll get a full movie about Sister Location, and that'll answer a lot of the questions about it. So yeah, there's that. Um, I had fully thought of the questions they needed to answer. Um, I feel like the other main one was maybe. I feel like I already talked about it though, but Vanessa's backstory. Related to Circus Baby. Why was Vanessa so scared of her? That's a big question I got to answer too. But those are kind of strung together in the same one. So I feel like if they do go on the past of Circus Baby in the third movie, I imagine they'll answer the question about why Vanessa was so scared of her. But yeah, we'll see. Um, yeah, they need to answer Circus Baby. They need to establish whether or not the movie will crap off a trilogy, or the trilogy of movies and they're done making movies, or if they'll make more movies afterwards. What other questions they need to answer? Hmm. That might just be about it. This episode's a lot shorter than I thought it would be. Um, I'm really drawing blanks right now. The past of Michael Afton. Now that we know that Matthew, now that we know that Michael Afton and Michael Schmidt are two separate characters, rather than being the same character, the same person like they were in the games, they do need to go into the past of Michael Afton a little bit. Why is Michael Afton already evil? Has he already been scooped? I think a lot of people are wondering whether or not Michael Afton's been scooped already, and he's being controlled by whether or not that's him doing everything, or whether or not that's the animatronics doing everything. I feel like that's one we gotta see too. History of Michael Afton. Um, Oh yeah, the Henry speech. I'm not talking about the. I'm not talking about Henry's post-credit scene or speech at the end of the second movie. I'm talking about his speech at the end of Game 6, at the end of Pizzeria Simulator. One of the most iconic speeches in video game history, in my opinion. When Henry basically just caps off the main story arc. In my opinion, the main story arc. But yeah, I feel like we gotta see that in some resemblance at the end of this next movie. Um, there was two video games that ended with stuff burning down. One of them was at the haunted attraction, and knowing that's where the third movie is most likely going to be at, looks like a 99% chance is where it's going to be at. I feel like if you do end the movie with the attraction burning down and probably characters ending, you gotta have a Henry speech. The same, a Henry speech, and you need to make it emotional too, because like I know for a lot of Five Nights at Freddy's fans, Henry's speech at the end of the sixth game was one of the most emotional moments and probably the best moment in the video game franchise. So yeah, you got to. I feel like you got to include that, and you need to make it work too. Obviously, like I said, it's one of the best moments in the video game franchise was Henry's speech. You need to make this an amazing moment, and you need to make it worth its while. Um, this is a bit of a want for me. I guess we're moving into my. I really don't know what the general direction this video is going. Again, I'm just sitting in front of a camera and rambling at this point. Let's go more things. As far as the ending of the characters goes, obviously, the way I feel like they're gonna do, the way they should do this ending here, close off a set of characters. Because I feel like with these same characters in three movies, I don't think there's a outside of a third movie, I don't think there's a whole lot more development or growth you can do for these main set of characters we've seen so far. So most likely they'll probably what I'm thinking they should do wrap up these amazing character storylines, but also maybe leave a hint or two in there that there could be more story to be told later. So while these main characters might be done with their story arcs, more movies could potentially be made in the future regarding the past and the history of Five Nights at Freddy's. Again, Sister Location. The Sister Location game is phenomenal. I feel like you have to make a movie about Sister Location. There's a lot of lore in that game alone. But yeah, that's how at least how I feel like the movie should end. Is is the main characters are there, they get a good ending, and then they also maybe leave a hint or two in the movie that they could make more movies in the future. Or at least maybe like enough gaps in the story. Like not like huge gaps, but like subtle enough gaps that we could see a way that they can make future movies. I feel like that needs to be a thing too. Um sorry. Trying to think of more. Um Maybe in this movie we'll finally get to see one of the bites. You know, in the game universe there's obviously two notorious bites, the bite of 83 and the bite of 87. We haven't seen either. We haven't seen any details of either one. Maybe this is maybe in the next movie we finally get us maybe just at least get to hear about it. Maybe at least in this next movie we can get to hear about it at least once. Maybe future movies we could see the bite of 87. I the bite of 87 or 83. Because obviously in the game universe we never saw the bite of 87. We saw the bite of 83 but not 87. And 87 was introduced first, so maybe somewhere in the movies, whether it's this next coming one in FNAF 3 or a future one, we get to see the bite of 87, the bite of 83 as well, maybe. That'd be nice to see. Um, trying to think of more. Well, I do like the second movie. I will say this. I do like the second movie. I feel like there's some details in the plot that in general just feel kind of messy. Like how Charlotte is just this entity that possesses beings. Why she didn't just use Lisa to escape. Why if Charlotte's plan wasn't to Vanessa right away. I guess it's kind of. I feel like the whole Charlotte being able to possess people thing. I feel like the way they told it. I like the idea of it. I think the way they told it made it seem kind of messy. So yeah, they definitely need to make the plot like they need to develop the plot in a way that makes it actually like completely makes sense. Because while you could make sense of the last one, there's some details and parts in the plot that felt kind of messy. So I feel like they need to clean that up a little bit. Um, they need a better ending scene, and obviously I feel like with how the horror attraction meets its demise in the third game, we're most likely gonna see a better ending. That being said, the ending of the second movie kind of felt strange. Like it didn't feel like that intense of an ending. Because I feel like the movie built up to what could have been like a bloodbath at the Fast Fest with Michael Afton controlling the animatronics, him taking him there and actually hurting people with the animatronics at Fast Fest, what could have been a bloodbath, and then it never turned out to that. Whether that's because they didn't develop it that way, maybe they just didn't have the budget to do that, but they definitely this ending scene for this movie needs to be a lot more intense. It needs to be super super impactful because after all, this could very well be the final scene of what could be the final movie. So they needed to make it a good one. First one was all right. Second one wasn't that good in my opinion. As far as movie go, first movie was great. Second movie not as good. They definitely need to make this ending impactful. No, obviously they need to make the whole movie really good. After all, this is your last movie. You need to go out with a bang, like make it really good. But this ending, the ending especially, like it needs to be a super powerful ending. Even if the rest of the movie sucks, if it's a really good ending, it could the ending alone and the ending of the characters, the ending of probably the movie trilogy, and maybe the movies all together. Um, that would be impactful to me. That would be alone to make this a really good movie, one that people will watch. More scary. It's next week's gonna be at a horror attraction for God's sake. You need to make it scarier. They said they made the last one scarier. Personally, I didn't see it, but they need to make this next movie scarier. And I understand that the movies are basically just horror for kids. You got to remember a lot of even if you might be trying to target kids with this, the main audience who played all the games in the beginning, who have been following the games from the beginning, aren't kids anymore. They want more scary stuff. Make the movie more scary. Make it more gory. Like you try to do horror for kids in the first two movies, and in my opinion, it kind of held the first two movies back. You gotta make the movies more gory, more blood. Even if you have to bump up the rated to an R-rated movie, at the end of the day, it's like if you really want to make the movie stand out, just try making it rated R. Like you don't have to include like crazy shit. Just make it more gory. Make it more bloody, like a true slasher film. After all, this is a franchise about animatronic robots who go and kill people. Like, make it seem that way. Um, so yeah, there's that one. Um, I feel like that's really all I could really come up with off the top of my head right now. I know there's some details I'm probably forgetting. I know there's a lot of theories on the internet right now that Vanessa's a robot. Personally, I just don't think that would make sense. So please, for the love of God, don't do that. That would not make sense at all, in my opinion. But again, this is the third in what could end up being the final film of the Five Nights at Freddy's franchise. One that was talked about and developed for nearly a decade before they finally came out. First two movies, in my opinion, were great. Third one needs to be spectacular. This needs to be a truly blow my socks off type of movie. There needs to be more gore. They need to make this feel like a true horror movie. They need to make it a bit scarier. While at the same time, you need to give these characters an ending that makes sense, a good ending that makes sense. Maybe leave a couple of details unanswered in the plot that'll open up possibilities for more movies if you do come back to FNAF on the movie screen in the future. Um, Finish giving us the backstories of the Afton family, Vanessa, William Afton, his partner William's partnership with Henry, how their partnership came to an end. Like, tell a good story here. That's the biggest thing. Tell a good story. Tell the whole story, the rest of the story we haven't seen yet. If you have to make the movie longer, so be it. Like, I'd rather watch a 3.5 hour movie that fully told me what the whole story was than a shorter movie that didn't and left a lot of key details that people want to see happen unanswered, leave questions unanswered, leave things out. Like, I don't want that to happen, even if that means that I gotta sit my ass in a movie theater for 3.5 hours. I'd rather do that than have an unfinished storyline. So there's all that. Um, there's no official release date for the movie yet. The only update we've had from like people involved in the movie are Matthew Lillard and Skeet Ulrich. When Matthew Lillard said that William Afton and Henry Emily are gonna have more scenes together in this final movie, and then when Skeet said that they're hiring writers right now and they're beginning the process of writing, they're in the beginning stages of writing the third movie. This was earlier this month, I think, when this news came out, so they are working on it. I think Universal has a panel at a future Comic Con this year, or some other like really big movie events this year. So I feel like definitely sometime, I think either over the summer, maybe over the fall, is when we'll see the official announcement for the release date of Five Nights at Freddy's 3. I saw one rumor saying October of 2027. Again, that's just a rumor. Well, it has the most traction of the rumors. Again, it's just rumors. There's nothing official so far. I think mid to late 2027 would be the ideal release date. But yeah, we got a few years. Not a few. We got the rest of this year and some time of next year for us to theorize, talk about this third movie. Hopefully, it gets hyped up really well. I want this movie to do really good. As a big die-hard fan of Five Nights at Freddy's, so I want this movie to do good. I want this movie to do good. I want the storyline well developed. And yeah, overall, overall, if Scott is right, if Scott was right during the development of the first movie and saying that there was only going to be three, that means they got one more movie left to make it perfect. It's going to take a lot of work, which is probably why they're hiring more writers, get more opinions on the movie, so the story can be told in a way that makes sense, while also giving these characters a good way to end their stories. That's the big one. Almost at half an hour. But yeah, that's going to do it for this video. Again, I didn't have any structure. If you got confused over it, that's okay. Like, I got confused over my own parts from time to time too, but this was essentially, I watched the first two movies today because I wanted to make this video, so I watched the first two movies. so I could be in the mindset ready to just go on camera and yap. This is just me smelling socks right now. So that's gonna do it. If you're excited for Five Nights at Freddy's 3 as much as I am, and you're super impatient and can't wait for this to come out, let me know in the comments. Leave a like. I might be mainly a sports channel, and my main focus might be sports, but I'm a nerd too. I'll talk about video games. I could make a video talking about how much of a disaster MLB The Show 26 has been. I can make videos where I finally play the damn games, you know. I have streamed them on Twitch before, after all, so maybe I can finally play all the games. It might suck trying to do them on PlayStation, but I'll figure it out. But yeah, so we're gonna wrap this video up right here. Thank you guys for watching. If you want to see more Five Nights at Freddy's content in the future, let me know. You know, hopefully my channel can grow enough for over the year that I can maybe get in contact with more Five Nights at Freddy's YouTubers and hopefully make videos with them. That would be awesome. But yep, that's gonna do it. Thank you guys for watching. And for you baseball fans out there, be on the lookout for my video tomorrow. Tomorrow, I'm going to officially do my season predictions video with opening day with the first game of the season on Wednesday. So be on the lookout for that. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Peace out, y'all.